So we begin tonight with a big story. This is happening in Ondo State. The impeachment proceedings initiated to probe the Ondo State Deputy Governor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa. And this, of course, began on the floor of the Ondo State House of Assembly yesterday. The majority leader in the House moved that motion for the Deputy Governor to be impeached, which in another sense means essentially to be probed over what was described as gross misconduct. We'll be taking a look at those issues, taking a deeper look at the issues raised, the implication of this. Don't forget that Governor Rotimi Akeredolu just recently resumed after a few months of medical leave out of the country. And that was followed by the sacking of the media aides of the deputy governor. Recall that we spoke to, well, an aide to the governor on the program some days back where he said, well, some issues were indeed going on, but that they were okay. That's the governor and the deputy governor. But with the twist of events we're seeing, let's seek to give you the truth, at least a true picture of the story tonight. We'll be joined by our Honorable Olatunde Oshati, who is the chairman of the Committee on Information of the Ondo House of Assembly in a moment. But before that, let's go over to Lekki in Lagos, where we're joined by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Adegboruwa. Good evening, Senior Advocate, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
I imagine you've been following closely the proceedings in Ondo State, particularly on the floor of the House of Assembly. There is what is written on paper. There is a politics behind it. But seeing the moves that have been initiated, I wonder what your thinking is of it so far.
Well, Kayode, I think it's totally undesirable, and I say the least unfortunate, for that peaceful state to be thrown into such tension. We were all very happy and glad and thanking God for the healing of His Excellency, the Governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. You know, he's been out of the country and people have been praying. And I, in particular, have admired His Excellency for his transparency in openly declaring his health status and asking for prayers. I visit his Facebook virtually every now and then, and I see his faith in God, his commitment to openly disclose, because we're not God. And so we were very glad, you know, contrary to the speculations that people were peddling around, that His Excellency returned safely and is back and fully on his feet, even though he's still recuperating and he's in Ibadan. So for me, that should be the primary concern of everybody, how to get His Excellency back to his seat of office and to discharge his constitutional responsibilities and work to move the state forward by engaging the relevant stakeholders. I believe that Ondo State in particular is crying for development. I am from Ondo State, especially the southern parts of the state, and I can tell you we're having a short end of the stick. In particular, Ilaje local government and Ilaje Seldo, there's no electricity, there are no roads, there's no potable water. If you recall a popular city called Ayetoro that used to be a tourist attraction, it's all washed off by the ocean surge. So I believe that anybody who follows the affairs of Ondo State should be interested in the development of that state and not political tension. The current governor and his deputy will leave office by the grace of God probably in February 2025. They have just a few years to go. They've been coming together for the past 5 years. I see no reason why this kind of tension should come at this particular time. But that is not to say there are cases of misappropriation, if there are cases of gross misconduct properly established, and indeed that are genuine, you cannot hide or keep those under the carpet. But of course, you know how politics go in Nigeria. People just cook up all manner of allegations in respect of whatever political agenda they have. And I can tell you, Kaude, I know His Excellency, the Governor of Ondo State, as a man of courage and transparency and accountability. I'm sure he's not involved in all this. And so I believe that in the course of time, he will play his fatherly role and call all the gladiators to order and let governance take his center stage in that state. I don't think that this is the time for this kind of political tension.
So there's the issue of separation of powers, and you say you believe that he's not involved in this. So how do you expect him to intervene in this when constitutionally the powers are meant to be separated, the executive and the legislature? So what constitutional backing, what powers would you think the governor would rely on to intervene in this, since you say you believe he's not involved in this?
Yes, as you know, the governor had a challenging first tenure with his former deputy, Honorable Agbola. The same scenario that played out now, played out then, if you recall, when similar steps were made to impeach the then deputy governor, but it could not go through. And it's also because of this issue of disloyalty. You know, His Excellency had a challenge of health even at that time. So it was this same scenario that played out then, and it's playing out now. And I have tried to investigate it, and I think that the gladiators are trying to incite His Excellency against his deputy to claim that while he was acting as acting governor, he was disloyal. I was told that some people were said to have published obituary of His Excellency, which I investigated and discovered it was not true. Everybody in Ondo State were all praying, and I recall, if you go into the details, the deputy governor as acting governor then led the State Executive Council to conduct prayers. So why I'm asking the governor to intervene these days, he's the father of the state, he's the head of the Executive Council. For the allegations that I've seen, I'm told that it was said that money was approved for the purchase of armored vehicles, which I investigated is not the case. No single amount was said to have been allocated for that purpose. So in order for there to be unity, progress, the governor and the deputy are from the same political party. And I believe those who are initiating this process are doing so, dropping the name of the governor from what I found out. That's why I asked that his intervention is necessary, because they claim to be acting in support of the governor, because allegedly the acting governor was disloyal when he was acting in his absence, which I believe probably may not be the case.
Let's break this down, Senior Advocate. Is this an issue with the process or perhaps the propriety and constitutional power empowering the House of Assembly to carry out this impeachment proceedings? What exactly do you have a grouse with? Is it the process? Is it whether or not they're empowered by the Constitution? Or what exactly is it?
Well, you know, before we came online, you played the tape of the Deputy Governor of Edo State. I think generally, for me, we must come to a stage when those who occupy positions of leadership should find a way to put behind their personal interests in order to move governance, in order to make sure the responsibility entrusted to them by the people is executed faithfully. And so it's across Nigeria. I'm just wondering why it's impossible for a governor, for the president, to work together. Like how you recall, President Obasanjo had a running battle with Alhaji Abubakar Atiku. It's the same thing that's happening in Edo State. It happened in the first tenure of the governor of Ondo State, and it's happening now. So my grasp is simply that these opportunities for people to lead their state correctly should not be dwarfed by matters of lack of due process. And in this particular case, for instance, if you read the allegations, I mean, it's quite very, very funny. And I say funny with respect because I tried to investigate and found out that as we speak today, the deputy governor lives in his own house. He has no access to government house in terms of official residence. The deputy governor uses his own car. So I believe that when you throw up this kind of frivolous allegations, for instance, people have camps. The deputy governor has his own camp. Those who are doing this have their own camp. You can imagine that the House of Assembly of Ondo State will not do anything until this particular matter is resolved. Lawmaking will be in the background.
Right.
The issue of supervising departments will be in the background. Kayode, as I speak to you, you cannot pass from Ondo to Akure or Wena. It's cut off. People have to go through Ipetu in order to go to Akure. And the same thing, is happening in respect of governance, in terms of the NDD, Niger Delta Development Commission, where we are being shortchanged because there is this vacuum, as it were. So I believe that all of us, especially stakeholders in Ondo State, our primary responsibility is not to incite or use a process to be able to humiliate people, right. As it were, especially if there are no genuine allegations, because I cannot support, for instance, that we should bury anything that constitutes a grave misconduct. But I have said it, and I can tell you that there's nothing in Ondo State presently like approving 300 million naira for purchase of armored vehicle. Nothing like that exists at all.
Well, Senior Advocate, clearly this is a case you have taken up because you have clearly a lot of information about this. But I'd like you to hold on for a moment. Let's bring in Honorable Olatunji Oshati, who is a Chairman Information Committee, Ondo House of Assembly, to shed more light on the situation at hand. Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good evening.
So, I mean, listening to the senior advocate, he has described some of these allegations as funny. And his question is, are they really genuine? So please tell us about yesterday's move to impeach the deputy governor, or in another word, investigate him for what was described as gross misconduct.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank the senior advocate as well, because he's learned, and we must give respect to him on that line. But what actually happened is what we need to tell the world. That the processes that deal with the impeachment of governors and the deputy governor are clearly stated. And a situation where you receive allegations.
It looks like there's another device which is playing back what we're discussing. So if you could mute that device or move it far away from you, just reduce the volume entirely, because it's clashing with what you're saying, and it's really difficult for even you to concentrate properly. So
I've done that. I've done that.
Fantastic. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Like I said, I just have to appreciate the senior advocate, at least for what he has said. We are House of Assembly, and House is different from whatever people may feel about what's going on here. There are allegations, and when you have allegations that are so many, what is expected is for us to investigate. The allegation cut across what the senior advocate has just said, and it borders also on morals, because we all know what actually happened in Ondo State, and we know what happened to our governor as well. And we know, just like the senior advocate has said, we prayed and God answered our prayer. There are some allegations that borders on emotions that we don't want to take it off emotionally, which by the time we finish our investigation, we'll be able to explain better. to the person we allege. Part of the allegations was what the senior advocate said. And we have many of them. And it borders on misconduct. And just like we used to tell our people, there is no point eating the policy, but it is our duty that when you receive petition, the best thing for us is to look into it. And we said it on several fora that we are not witch-hunting. We are just doing our job. And our job is to investigate. And by the time we finish, you know what we see, that we are not after witch-hunting anybody, but we are after sanitizing the system.
So, Honorable, can you just quickly walk us through these allegations? The 300 million naira, which was alleged to have been used to purchase armored vehicle, that one tops the list. But what are the other allegations? How many are they?
No, there are about 5 allegations with us here that borders on misappropriation. Let's just group it up. There is no point spelling it out. The senior advocate has said one of it, but misappropriation of funds. Those are the allegations from the petition. And it's left for him to prove himself. If he answered well, we are not after witch-hunting. The other one is about his intention when the governor was away to divide the executive and planning to impeach the governor, which he needs to at least defend himself. Let me just tell you what's going on in the States. We have a governor that is loved by everybody. And just like the advocate said, we prayed and God gave us victory of reviving him. And we must tell you, anything that borders on mocking or trying to take advantage of what was on, which is natural, everybody can be healed at any time. Senior advocate can tell you more about the allegations that was put to him. And we are just here to tell you that we are not after witch-hunting. It's just for us to give out the allegations. That's why we've written him. And he has 7 days to defend him.
So has it been served? The allegations gotten to him? So is the 7 days counting from yesterday, today, or what exactly is the situation? It will start when it's served, and I believe he has been served now, because the order was given to the clerk of the house. Right.
And I believe it is duty of the clerk of the house to do that, and he must have done that.
Just quickly, so there is what is on paper, Honorable, and there is usually the real politics behind all of this. And a lot of people have said, this is really just politics. And they've described him as someone who is loyal to the governor. It's quite interesting. You say one of the allegations is actually intends to divide the executive and impeach the governor, as you said. So tell us the truth behind all of this. Is this really about all of those allegations, or clipping his wings? Some even say that the governor has a major influence on all of this.
No, all this about rumor. Let me just put it that way. It's about rumor. We are all human beings as well, and we know what is going on. And just like I said, it's a petition. And when you have a defense, a good defense, and he has, I believe, employed a good lawyer, it's just for him to defend himself before the House.
Okay, we seem to have lost connection with Honorable Oshati. Are you back with us, Honorable? Okay, well, we'll continue on this conversation, really, because it's a major one. We've seen what played out in Edo State, still playing out in Edo State. Perhaps has not been escalated to this level, but what exactly is going on? Is there a resolution to this? We'll go on a quick break now, and when we return, we'll talk more with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adegboruwa, and Honorable Oshati, who is the spokesperson of the Ondo State House of Assembly, plus a look at President Tinubu's economic policies. There's a big question out there. Is subsidy back? We'll bring you more analysis on that one, plus more in a moment. Please stay with us. So welcome back to the program. We're still in Ondo State, where the State Assembly has begun impeachment proceedings on Deputy Governor Mr. Adegboruwa. We still have with us Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adegboruwa, and the spokesperson of the Ondo State House of Assembly, Honorable Olatunji Oshati, who's been telling us exactly what is going on. Honorable Oshati, we lost you for a moment there just before we went on break, and I'd like you to frontally respond to this point that has been made time and again, that just how involved is Governor Akeredolu in all of this? Right. Looks like that connection is still shaking, but we'll get back to Honorable Oshati. Let me come back to you, Senior Advocate. Well, he has said, he has agreed with you on some points, at least the allegations and the next line of action. So are you taking this to court? Is this in court already? And what kind of effect will the court process or an eventual pronouncement have on the proceedings in the State Assembly? Again, separation of power come into play here.
Thank you very much, Kaude. You will notice that Honorable Shafi did not specifically state any issue of misconduct. And I'm talking misconduct. Then you talk about gross misconduct. There's no misconduct, how much less gross misconduct. He talked about 300 million naira. And I explained to you. And I'm challenging anybody to produce any document that shows that 1 million naira was approved by the deputy governor when he was acting to purchase vehicle. There's nothing like that. And I've thrown that challenge, and I expected that, because you cannot just use the process of the House of Assembly for the purpose of stoking a crisis in a state. That's number one. Number two, he talked about misappropriation. That means misappropriation means that maybe money is meant for one thing and then you use it for another. The allegation raised by the House of Assembly was that the deputy governor, when he was acting, approved 300 million naira allegedly from palliative fund for the purchase of armored vehicle for himself. It doesn't exist. During the period when the deputy governor acted as acting governor, it was the Honorable Commissioner for Finance that was the chairman of the palliative committee for Ondo State. So the deputy governor had no access to palliative funds, and he could not have diverted money. The other allegation stated by Honorable Shafi was that the acting governor tried to impeach the governor, tried to divide the executive council. Amicade is totally laughable, without due respect to the honorable. I don't think in my widest imagination that a House of Assembly of Ondo State will busy itself with this kind of mundane allegation that the deputy was trying to impeach. Where would the impeachment take place other than the House of Assembly? How many members of House of Assembly received any lobbying or information? And you recall some 4 days ago, the House of Assembly of Ondo State, through its speaker, came out openly denying that there was any move to impeach the speaker. When the governor went on medical leave in June this year, there was also the allegation that the speaker was to be impeached so that another person would be elected as speaker and then the deputy governor would be impeached. So I'm saying that it's been in the pipeline, this lobbying for the purpose of removing the deputy governor. It's been in the pipeline, and I see no reason for it, because there is no basis at all, either in law or in fact. He's talking about emotion, and that emotion kind of is that it was alleged that the deputy governor, through his aide, published an obituary of His Excellency. How can anybody do that? Can we play God? Like I told you, go to Ondo State. Everybody was praying for His Excellency to return safely. And everybody was happy and jubilating. So why will he get back, and gladiators who want to put themselves in positions of power for the next election are the one dividing the state? And there's no basis for that at all. And I'm glad that Honorable Shafi cannot tell you any specific instance of any misappropriation other than this alleged 300 million naira, which does not exist at all. So for us, the process will be that if this is true, that indeed is purely political, then there's no basis for that process to go on, because it's an abuse of the Constitution. When we were drafting the Constitution, gross misconduct in our own estimation is something so grave, as in when you hear it, your ears will tingle. but not beer parlor rumor of the acting governor wanting to impeach the governor. How can that be?
Well,
does he have such power?
Let's take this
or
Honorable
that he was
Ashati
publishing
now.
obituary. Did you see such obituary?
So let's take this Honorable Ashati. You've listened to the senior advocate saying gross misconduct should be something major. Give us an insight into, the allegations. Are they really that major beyond the ones you have mentioned? Are they really gross to warrant impeachment, Honorable?
Thank you so much. When you talk about misappropriation, is misappropriation not gross? Misappropriation of funds. The onus is on him to prove to the House that all these allegations are false. And we've told him, when you are in possession of petitions, it is our duty, we are duty bound as a legislator to do our job. We are not wishing anybody. I must tell you today, the senior advocate mentioned some of the allegations. And he said misappropriation of 30 million, misplacement of funds, they are not gross violation of the Constitution. It depends on how he wants to prove it. But what we are saying now is for the deputy governor to give us reply to all these allegations within 7 days. We are human beings, and definitely
well, it's been a real struggle with the connection there, having this fluid conversation with Honorable Ashati. But let's wind down on this. Looks like definitely we'll be following through this in the coming days. But I was asking you, senior advocate, earlier on about the options available now. Going to court, what will be the import of this? Whether this process can be reversed by the court?
Well, surely, Kaude, I mean, when a process like that has commenced, it will be important for us to ask the judiciary to interpret these allegations, whether they exist in fact at all. Like I told you, before I will ever come on air, I have done some investigations and I discovered they don't exist at all. So it will be up to the deputy governor to be able to exercise his right in law to challenge the process and ask the House of Assembly to bring those allegations before the court. Because you cannot just sit down and trump up charges. So they will bring them before the court and show the whole world whether indeed money was appropriated, whether indeed gross misconduct happened, whether indeed efforts were made to impeach the governor when he was away on medical leave. If those things do not exist at all, either in law or in fact, and I'm sure our judiciary will have no difficulty in intervening in that process to ensure that there's no abuse of Constitution. But I just wanted to inform Honorable Shafi and indeed our colleagues in the House of Assembly in Ondo State. Kaude, please go to Ondo State. There is a law which we pass. It's called the Ondo State Oil Producing Minerals Commission, or SOPADEC law. Because as an oil producing state, Ondo State is entitled to 13% derivation from the federation account. And that money should go to the two local governments that are producing oil. That is Ilaje local government and Ilaje Seldo. So it was a general consensus that in order to develop other parts of the state, that 30% should be divided into two. 60% will go to those oil producing areas, while 40% will go to the other areas of the state. As I speak to you, there's no electricity in any of those areas. There's no judiciary, there's no court, there's no pipe-borne water, there's no good road. So I think that the House of Assembly should be involved in its oversight functions to, for instance, find out whether the law passed by that House is being implemented. Clearly,
there's work to be done, senior advocate, but we have to anchor at this point. We'll still keep our eyes on the development. We'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Adegboruwa, senior advocate of Nigeria, for your time, as well as Honorable Ashati, who joined us virtually this evening. He's a spokesperson of the Ondo State House of Assembly. Gentlemen, thank you again for your time.